comprehensive audit of content to ensure that we can meet our requirements for our payment processors, pages will remain de-indexed as we complete our review. Once this review is complete, they've got new compliance measure. For NSFW pages, this will include a new step where creators must confirm that their content is allowable under the policies of the respective payment processors linked to their account. So again, it's not, we live in a world where the TOS no longer matters, okay? Their TOS is like secondary. The first TOS for any site you go to is obviously PayPal or Visa or MasterCard, the payment processor. They're the ones that control what you and I get to consume on the internet, okay? They're the ones that control what you and I can view. And again, if you don't see the implications, it's not about the porn game, okay? Forget the game for a minute. It's about that being the easiest way to enter this ideology into the mainstream. Because we've seen this happen before, right? Like debanking is actually a thing, right? It happened in a lot of cases, even a lot of political cases, for instance, too. There was a whole trucker convoy protest that happened back in Canada where like emergency acts got brought in. And I believe there were like a couple, like 100 accounts, which granted in the larger scheme of things maybe didn't matter all that much. But it showed that at any point, the government or even private entities can come in and debank you for your actions. They can debank you for whatever reason. And the thing is, losing access to a bank isn't an issue. There's thousands of financial institutions all over the world. If your bank completely cuts ties with you, it's not hard to go to another bank and just start a new account. Where it becomes an issue is the payment processor, okay? And to give you an idea, if you go to Collective Shout's page, they have made an open letter to, again, 6 of the CEOs for these organizations. So PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, PaySafe Limited, Discover, who the fuck still has a Discover card? Japan Credit Bureau. So you've got, again, these organizations, and again, their email is your corporations facilitate and profit from incest, child abuse, like all the craziest shit. So immediately, they're using the most inflammatory shit to go after these organizations. And again, these 6 people basically control how. Now, the thing about this is, obviously, I don't even think the banks like this shit at all. Nobody likes these organizations. Unfortunately, we all have to interact with them. This is not like, hey, Muda, it's a private company. They can kind of do whatever they want. And that kind of is true, right? Like, if you get banned from something like Twitter or YouTube or whatever.
Welcome, my friend. How you doing today, my friend? How's everything with you? Oh, jeez, man. I didn't even think that anybody was going to pop up in the stream and all that. So what's going on with you, my friend? How's everything with you? Oh, shit, damn, man. You good? That's good. That's good to hear. That's good.
Against all the...
Oh, man. Oh, damn. No, my damn fucking foot. I really hate it when that shit happens. Well, that's good, man. I'm glad to hear that.
There are a lot of amazing content.
Right now, I'm just taking it one day at a time. And currently, I'm just watching a bunch of random videos like I normally do. What's the discussion for today? Actually, there's a couple of discussions I want to talk about. There's actually been the recent incident involving Valve and Steam and Bad Bunnies. That's a beautiful white lady. That's funny, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so let's try this.
At the time, my schizophrenia, delusions, and hallucinations.
I was actually watching some content. I was actually watching a couple of videos earlier this week, and there was actually 2 that kind of stuck out with me. First of all, there's a big controversy involving Valve and Steam, and of course, payment processing issues. And I was just watching it just now, listening to somebody else talking about it, and then I was actually looking at this thing about influencers, and the thing that really kills me is this. Hey, Simply Marvel, how you doing? I'm doing pretty good. And anything good today, Minnie? No, nothing really. Just basically just sitting here, turned my camera on, decided to go ahead and interact with you a lot. If anybody decided to come here, and I'm glad to see more people popping in. So welcome aboard. So I mean, that's the thing though. Like, so I was looking at the whole thing about influencers, and I was kind of on I was actually kind of like a discussion binge or something like that, and I was actually looking into this one particular person that is considered to be an influencer, and basically he took a huge gamble on what he did, and it caused him to fall rock bottom in terms of his prospects of becoming a very influential figure or actually having some semblance of relevance anymore, contrary to what he did before. So to kind of give you guys where it started. Yeah, so I'm gonna give you guys a little story. So as far as this, I don't know, like, I mean, I'm kind of in Call of Duty. Hey, no problem, man. Good, no problem. Good, just, I don't know if you can multitask, but if you can't multitask, that's fine too. Concentrate on winning the fucking game. Are you playing on zombies mode, or are you playing a death match, or are you doing what? So, there is this influencer that went by the name of Hub's Life. Now, the thing with me is that I keep hearing the word influence, and I know it's becoming a very, what's the word you guys use nowadays? Y'all say cringe. I think that's what y'all call it. Things that just make you feel very. You hear the word influencer, it just gives you some negative connotations behind it, and it just doesn't seem like it's as well with you, especially like if you're part of the younger generation. But there's a guy that goes by the name of Hub's Life, and this is this is actually a different type of beast altogether. Initially, his content centered around him being a 9-to-5 regular Joe. He was pretty much recording his daily life, closing, opening, closing, opening. You're from Nigeria? Nice to meet you too. Which part of Nigeria are you from? Abuja, Lagos, where? So, but this guy though, I think he was making like over $100,000 a year. He's also happily married, and also his wife is pregnant. They have a kid, along the way. And Lagos, nice. That's beautiful. How's everything over there right now in Lagos? So, but with this guy though, he was making over $100,000 a year. Okay, and his whole shtick with his TikTok page, and I don't have TikTok. I don't have any intention of getting to TikTok. I don't care for TikTok. Fuck TikTok. I don't care about that shit. And I knew there was a bunch of people that I work with. They were all telling me, how come you don't have TikTok? And it's like, motherfucker, why do I even want to go ahead and waste my data giving it to another website? I mean, I already have it. I already have like YouTube. So what's the point? So anyway, are you watching from Samoa? Hey, welcome to my channel. It's good to see you, JJ. So, but anyway, so as far as the Hub's Life guy comes into play, he was recording his 9-to-5 life, and it's different because a lot of influencers has always advocated for this idea that you can be you could be your own. You could pretty much just go ahead and quit your day job, because content creation is your thing. Now, granted, I'm not here to really crap on anybody, because everybody has a passion, but I have a personal philosophy and a personal perspective on it altogether. But then again, I'm just a guy that works. I'm just a regular Joe myself. I mean, I have a nice career that I really love. It may not really pay. I'm not making like millions of dollars a year. I'm not even making like more than $100,000 a year, but I can tell you that I'm actually very happy with what I do, and there's plenty. Do I have any friends that are Samoans? Honestly, no. To be honest with you, no. Because where I live at, we don't have anybody of Samoan heritage. I mean, if they do, it's a very, very minuscule population. And, I mean, you'd be hell-bent on even finding Native Indians in my place, in where I live too. And so it's like looking at a needle in a haystack. But if I do come across any Samoans in person, I would just, well, you know what, man, I may have actually met them once or twice in my life, but only in passing. Well, yeah, I mean, everyone's into content creation, but I think a lot of people are just more fixated on becoming their own boss too. And this is something that is very prevalent even in today's, in today's society. I live in Louisiana, so I live in Louisiana. I'm from the South. And but like I said, though, like it's just that I think there's a big thrill with people actually pursuing their dreams and being their own boss, and not have to slog and resign themselves to living in a 9-to-5 occupation, because they are so far into this idea that, you know, maybe it's just not for them. And they see what happened with their parents too, because they probably see a lot of stuff on television, videos online and everything, and it's like, I just want to be able to do content creation for a living and be my own boss. And I think that's a big attraction that a lot of people have when they go into stuff like TikTok. I mean, when YouTube first came out, if social media started to take off with YouTube and the like, I don't know if you guys actually know that. I don't know if any of y'all are old enough to remember, because when YouTube first came out, it was practically a free for all space. We kind of good people, we chill. Well, I can figure that, man. I mean, let's put it this way: like, the only Samoan Americans that I do know would have to be The Rock and Jason Momoa. But those are the only celebrities that I know. But as far as like people that I know, like yourself, I would probably consider you to be the first person that I've interacted with that's Samoan. So, you know, when I looked at the whole idea of, when I saw that, because I know, like, when YouTube first came out, YouTube was kind of like a free for all space, and the internet was very in its infancy. The internet was kind of like was pretty much like the Wild Wild West. And I think that's a pretty accurate description, because there really weren't any real rules or regulations. There weren't really any heavy regulations like we have now. I mean, if you went to AOL or America Online, I've actually met a bunch of Nigerians. When I went to college, I've actually met a bunch of people from Nigeria. And I've actually also met a bunch of people and I was actually part of I was part of an African student organization as well. 1 year I was like the public relations guy, and I was also the financier person, and I was also the VP. And I would say that I met, I would say that Nigerian people are really cool people, very business savvy, very sweet, very nice, very courteous. And, from my experience, I've met some amazing people from many parts of Africa. But I met a bunch of Nigerians. They know what they want. They're very confident. They're very tough as nails, very resilient, and business savvy. And they don't mind sharing, exchanging ideas. And that's actually something that I find very heartwarming about them. And that's my personal experience with people from Nigeria. And not just Nigeria, but also from other parts of Africa as well, like maybe Liberia, Mauritania, Burkina Faso, Chad. What else I had too? Let's see what else I had. From the Congo. So I would say, I've never tried fufu and egusi, personally. But I did actually go. But I did remember picking up some Nigerian food from a Nigerian. There's a Nigerian restaurant that we actually have been to, and I think I've actually ate from there as well, because we actually had like an African student night, and we did a lot of events over there, during that time. And that was like way back in the early 2000s, or like the early or mid 2000s, and that was actually pretty nice. And the food was actually pretty solid, but I don't think I've actually got a chance to really experience Nigerian food in its entirety. Like I said, fufu and egusi are pretty much like the main staples. Jollof rice is another thing that's a main staple as well. Actually, you know what? I did try jollof rice, and it was actually pretty nice. It was really nice. I don't think of it, yeah. So, one thing about it is that with YouTube now, it's a great opportunity for people to really expand, be able to become their own businessman. I mean, they've seen many content creators being able to get, retire from the jobs that they were working a long time ago, from a while back, working their usual 9-to-5s. But this is a different case with this guy who's an influencer. And, nowadays TikTok, Instagram, everybody can become financially independent if they continue to hustle the way they want to. But it's also pure luck, and the algorithm can also be very unkind or very kind to you, depending on how things work and how you manage to network and build a strong social network with people. So this Hubs Life guy, making like over $100,000 a year, and he said he really enjoyed his job, and he made a bunch of videos on TikTok talking about how much he really loved his job, and that you really shouldn't give up your job working 9-to-5. Then he did something where he actually decided to go ahead and quit his job. And he was teasing what he was going to do next. So a lot of people had the speculation that maybe he was planning on doing another 9-to-5 job. And he was kind of hinting at, teasing it and everything. He actually went to, but there were some questionable things that he did. Like, first and foremost, he went to a completely different building that was very empty. And it looked like he was actually just trying to settle into the new job early on or something along those lines. And then he went on somebody's podcast. That's another thing altogether. He was on another person's podcast and proceeded to be interviewed, talk about his personal prospects on what he wants to do. And he kind of alluded to the idea that he's given up the idea of the 9-to-5 shtick altogether, which is kind of like a sense of betrayal for most people. And lo and behold, that's what happened. He basically gave up his 9-to-5 job, which he was known for on his TikTok videos, talking about it's okay to have a 9-to-5 job. It's perfectly fine because you can lead a normal life. It may seem boring to other people, but for me, it's perfectly fine. And he decided to pursue content creation full time. Now, I would definitely say that is an act of betrayal for a lot of people who look to his content and see it as an opportunity to really vindicate, and validate people's personal desires to not deal with, pursue something else. Oh, you're leaving Simply Marvel? Hey, if you got, what time is it right now in Lagos? So, for me, but, with this Hubs Life guy, that's the thing that, like, for me, I never really cared too much about the whole influencer stick. I never understood it myself, but I guess it's something where you realize that people have to look up to somebody, and if they find somebody they can relate to online, and they get attached to them, obviously they feel like that there's a consistency in terms of what their messaging is. But always remember that time is always going to change, and everyone is going to deviate or eventually just completely leave behind certain things or certain activities, or leave behind what they were known for. And another case like that would be this young lady named Clara Dow, and she is a Vietnamese Canadian influencer, but she's on YouTube, and she's a content creator who basically did a lot of videos about body positivity. And even that was a major what the hell for a lot of people. But I will probably say I would give her a little bit of grace, but solely because when she started content creating, she was 16 years old, and she was looking for something in order to reinforce and validate her own form of whatever people might feel very insecure about. So, for instance, I would definitely say that, but if you don't know who Clara Dow is, don't worry. But when she first started YouTube, she was 16 years old, and she was starting to do like videos of herself. And she also had, she was also known to be very Miss Body Positive, and it was all about her being flat chested. And she was doing content consistently, telling everybody, hey, it's okay. And she was doing a bunch of videos like that, even though people were actually, commenting on her saying that, she seemed like a little boy and everything else, disrespecting her, calling her all kinds of negative things in the world. But she didn't care, because at the end of the day, she knows that she's perfectly fine the way she is. And then just recently, there was a bit of a big stink that took place because she started talking about, her secrets, and she said that she was naturally thin, but apparently, like, she kept herself thin by not really eating a lot and regurgitating food in the process, and that drew a lot of pause. And then, of course, she had a boyfriend that she was seeing for a while, who was also known to be a pretty big man whore in the area that they resided in, especially when he cheated on her. And he kind of convinced her to get implants, and this is like her right now, and she's like in her early 20s, and because of that, everybody felt betrayed. But like I said, I'm going to give her a lot of grace on that, because you got to remember, this is a person that started at the age of 16 for content creation, and you know, people do change over time, and in her particular case, she's very young and she still has a lot of growing up to do. Her brain, her frontal cortex hasn't fully developed. She's trying to still find out who she is, and you know, for herself and such. It may seem like a slap in the face in the general consensus of the general community of people, but in the end, you know, this is something that she's basically going to have to realize that at the end of the day, there are people who are very persistent on the idea that people can be very principled in their convictions relating to what they advocate for. And unfortunately, Clara Dow kind of learned the hard way that she drew the ire of so many people. And it kind of sucks though, because, you know, one day you want to give up on, you want to try a different type of messaging, and it doesn't seem like she's actually doing anybody else's. From what it seems like, what she's really doing is that she's just doing it for herself, because times change. So I do feel sorry for her, but I also understand why the general public was very antagonistic, while the general public or her fan base was very disappointed in her. It is unfortunate, but this is something that I think we all have to wade through in our daily lives, because times, you know, there's plenty of things that actually change, because one minute we may actually be people who might advocate for something, and then all of a sudden a certain event or some sort of experience you may actually have may cause you to change into something completely different, and that might trigger you to not even think about the idea of how you're going to how people that look up to you react to what you're doing. You know, but also at the same time, it's not quite the same as people who want to put on a face and just using their platform to make money, capitalize off of the emotional needs of others, and try to destroy, you know, and basically destroy their image in one night, all because the mask came off. I never really thought of it like I never saw it as anything more than just another opportunity for people to just get online and just being able to just capitalize and make money, personally. I mean, that's actually not that's the thing, that like, if your end goal is to do that, then that's fine. Because I know, like, it's a very lucrative career if you know how to connect, you know, well enough and actually get different brand deals and such. And did I wanted to do something like that at one point? Yeah, you know, at one point I did. I know, like, in the infancy years of YouTube, it was a little bit more feasible for me to really acquire a certain amount of views and such, but I realized that in the landscape of the internet, there's no way for me to be able to catch up with everybody else, and because of that, I'm actually very handicapped in terms of time and in terms of resources and a few other stuff as well. So, and not to mention, not just having, you know, the other kicker about it is that I like the idea of being able to gain some kind of success, but that is a pipe dream for a lot of people, because only a handful of people can actually acquire that kind of luck and find that sort of meaning in their personal life. It's true. It's true. It sucks. It is what it is, but you're just gonna have to realize that you're gambling on so many things, and when you gamble on so many things, you're not going to get anything out of it. You know, which is why when I get on streams like these, I know I'm not consistent in terms of streams, and even if I were very consistent, I'm not going to really bring in multiple people coming into my stream and engaging with me for a lengthy period of time. That's not going to work. You know, I'm not a moist critical person who still, despite the fact that all he does is get in front of the camera, talk with a very distinctive voice, and being able to project himself and articulate himself in a manner that really, really gets people, that resonates with a lot of people because they will listen to him for some reason or another. Mostly because they like his look, and his personality and his look seems kind of like they are quote unquote rad. But you know, but you know, there's still an audience for that, and there's a lot of content creators that do a lot of that farm content based on talking about current events and controversy. But despite all that, though, you know, not everybody's going to make it that way. I know I've actually had opportunities in the past, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And like I said, and it's perfectly fine, because at the end of the day, you know, it's not going to destroy me in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, it just reminds me that, hey, you know, you do have something else you got to worry about. You have a lot more responsibility in your personal life. So what's the point of even trying to tackle something like content creation, or even going on stream and trying to build some level of success and building an audience? Because you're just a niche person. You're just another audience member. You know, not everybody's going to have that same luxury of being able to become very successful. And you know what? It's fine. It is what it is. And we deal with that on a daily basis. Oh, man. But I would also tell you that right now I'm a very, very sleepy person. I'm very, very sleepy. I think like the last couple of weeks, I haven't been broadcasting myself on here or go live because I was just really tired. I really don't understand why. I think I was just overwhelmed with a couple of things in the last couple of weeks, and I just needed to go ahead and try to catch up on a lot of sleep. I guess a big trigger mechanism deals with the unfortunate dealings of being inside, being in a state where everything is very sunny and it's very hot. The heat index is in the triple digits. Not good. You know, we'll be scorching ourselves into oblivion if need be. But I told myself I would muster up the courage to try to stream as much as I can. But unfortunately, that's not the case. That is definitely not the case. Yeah. But you know what? But I will say this though, I do have a bit of a theory about all this. The hypothetical scenario would be, you know, quite frankly, YouTube doesn't really want to pay out everybody who are content creators. But in the event that something happens to me where I meet my abrupt end in some way or another, somehow my videos will get into the algorithm and more people will start watching, but they don't have to worry about paying the money out to anybody because the person that created the channel and created the content altogether is dead. So they get to keep all the money and not have to worry about paying out anything. And that's my personal theory behind it. And that's only because YouTube can't really seem to value everybody as content creators, or potentially becoming aspiring content creators, or want to go ahead and gain a little bit of success. So there's always a bit of a conspiracy behind that. And you know what? I'm gonna hold that close to my chest until the day I die. Quite frankly, that's all I can do. Speaking of which, I'm actually hungry. And maybe I'm not hungry. Maybe I'm just in dire need to just have a salad, which I might have right now. There used to be something like that. And also as far as like different types of social media, you know, I like to keep my digital footprint as minimal as possible. I mean, I don't necessarily have I don't have too many applications. I have really just YouTube, and that's about it, and Twitch, that's about it. I don't really get on Instagram all that much. I do have a tendency to try to get rid of it eventually. But that's something that's going to be quite difficult, maybe in the foreseeable future. You know, unless there's some improvement with the way how things go. And here I'm drinking this energy drink, and yet I'm still without any real energy. Ah, isn't that a shame? I have no energy.
I relate. Runs in the family, right? Who are you?
Oh boy. Sorry about that, but I was very occupied with taking care of some other stuff. So I got a laundry, and oh, you know what? I got laundry in the damn dryer. Damn. Whew. You know what? I need to eat more salad. I definitely do. But you know what? Time for me to head out. I'll talk to you guys another time. Good night.